And so just to welcome and introduce a bit about myself. My name is Tauru, and I'm a Pacifica artistic thinker. I'm a very visual and kinesthetic tactile learner, and back in the day, school never really worked for me because I was taught, in an auditory type of style. Only main subjects that I would do well in high school were art, music, woodwork, and PE. And these subjects weren't categorized as main subjects back then in school, but I got to do them at least once a week. So here I was, this artistic thinker in an auditory world, and the school system didn't cater for me because it was always mainly about English and maths, which was almost taught every day. And if you were like me, these subjects, I got frustrated, and then I'd get bored. And because I wasn't being taught, when I got bored, I started getting a bit creative, and that creativity started getting me into trouble. And so to cut a long story short, I struggled through years of the education system, from school even into my first private training establishment and going into Polytech. Ended up going back to school, and through school from there, I probably considered myself I scraped through university and teachers training college. But all those past years of study wasn't easy, but I knew that I couldn't give up this journey, because I was going through this journey because I didn't want to be another statistic as a Pacific Island dropout. So not too long ago, I came across an idea, and it was like, I suppose I call it a positive frustration. And it was still, I was still the same Pacifica artistic thinker in an auditory world throughout my whole study life, but I started to catch on to something, and it was this, that my artistic mind started to keep up with my with auditory teaching. And so I don't have the time today to explain it in detail, but part of my study and this research here that I've been doing, that I'm currently doing as well, has caused some passion in me to create this model, and it's called Me, Myself, and I. So Me, Myself, and I has come from the foundations of the fale, and it's designed from Fui Maono Kao Putalo Enderman, and also the Te Whare Tapawha models. And also it's broken into three different areas, three different parts, which is me, myself, and I. But I'll be only sharing part two of the three sessions, and I call this About Myself. So on that note, let's get into it. So the aim for this lesson and this session, if you were to teach it, the purpose of this these activities and so forth is to give learners choices, and to practice socially prescribed interactions, such as sharing, their own backgrounds, family backgrounds, their history, their whānau, and or the ainga within the wider learning groups that they're part of in their class. So one of the first activities that I start with is, I give students a large sheet of paper. The bigger the better, the paper. And what you want to do is to draw up their family tree, and use a lot of colors, use a lot of just because of the whole image, the whole thing about art and stuff. So you color pens, felts, whatever, when you're creating this as part of this activity, and creating this, and feel free to create it in any way they like. It could be a mind map, a tree, or some type of graph. So, and take note that as a tutor, your aim is to take a mental note of how much they know about their family history, when they're drawing it down, or where they're mind mapping it, or whatever. So, that's an important part as us as the teachers or the tutors. And when they're finished, you want to bring all these family trees back to the middle, and you want to have a discussion about each other's families. Another point is, as us as tutors, you need to initiate the discussion and ask a lot of open-ended questions to create interest in the interest in each student's history background. So taking that mental note earlier on of every student is an important part during this activity. So coming back to the lesson, before we go any further, I'd like to share this quote. And this quote, it says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You know, you know, from there, you know, usually it would be cool time to write this up on the whiteboard as well, this quote. Ask a couple of questions about, you know, what they think this means and so forth. But let me tell you a story to try and make more sense of this quote, and, you know, even an understanding for the students. So what I'll do is, if I could hear you guys, I'll be asking you, oh, you know, can you say this word? So, you know, I'll be saying the same thing, asking the students, oh, can anyone say this word? And then, you know, I'll say today that it's shikuruba, and there'll be other different types of pronunciations, and so we'll all have a laugh about it and stuff. But let me tell the story. So 100 years ago, Shikuruba grew up in Europe, and as a teen, he never learned about character. Parents never taught him right from wrong. He began to come up with his own ideas and values. His father put him down when he talked about becoming a priest, and scolded him when he spoke of becoming an artist. He was never valued nor taught values. And so one night, he heard his mum and dad argue about moving away, and he was convinced they hated him and suspected they would leave him behind. So he decided to put up an emotional wall and never let anyone inside his heart. He ran away. This boy grew up to be a man. The man became a leader, and we know him as Adolf Hitler. So imagine if his parents actually took him seriously. What if we had someone that nurtured him and told him positive things about his life? I wonder if history would be different. What about our students? If I bring it back to when we talk about our students, have we ever thought that my class or your class may be the only place they come to that is the most positive and safest environment for them, because they are encouraged to do great things, and they're motivated to do so because they have a great tutor like yourself and myself, and that actually care about and believes in them. So just that quote earlier on, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I'd like to just stop here just to give some time for any of you that would like to ask any questions. Cool. If we move on to activity 2, and this is the cultural background of our students, and this gives, you know, during this time, this activity here, usually I would give students, again, a large sheet of paper, some scissors and some glue, and you know, I draw a big picture, draw a big circle to create a pie graph. So this one is specific, so you know, you want to make sure that they draw a big circle to create this graph. So the whole purpose of this graph is to divide this pie up into the nationalities that, you know, each student represent. And so using the magazines, cut out any images, you know, you get handouts of magazines or newspapers, and using those, they'd be using that to cut out any images or pictures that represent the following question, which is, if you have a pen there, write this down. It is, what are the first things that come to mind when you think of your culture? So I'll say that again. What are the first things that come to mind when you think of your culture? So that's what I'd be asking the students. Example for this, I suppose I can use my own life here. So I'd draw up this graph, and then I'd you know, divide it up. And my nationalities, my upbringing is I'm Samoan, Niuean, German, and Chinese. Then I'd ask the students, so which culture do you want me to talk about? And whatever, you know, culture they'd ask me to, for example, okay, talk about Samoan. Let's talk about your Samoan culture. So the first thing then that would come out of my come to mind, you know, based on my Samoan culture, straight away I'd go to the magazines or the newspapers and look for it, cut it out, and stick it onto the pie graph within their culture, which is the Samoan culture that as I used as an example. And so you just keep going on there. And you know, I don't know too much about my German and my Chinese background, but if a student, you know, if they told me, "Oh, talk about your German background," and then the first thing as I think about it now that comes to mind would be, I don't know why, but Arnold Schwarzenegger. So obviously I'll try and look for a picture. Whether he's German or not, I'm not too sure, but yeah, that sort of sticks to my mind. So it's, you know, what it is, it's just really trying to get these people, our students, just to think about the culture, and then from that, see, because not knowing too much about the culture, then I can research into it. I can get the students, well, let's look more into that, you know. And also, you know, I'm also being aware that some of our students won't want to talk about their culture, but you know, that is, if they're happy to just touch the surface of you know, their upbringing, then that's fine. It's a good place to start. So when finished, you know, you want to bring all these pie graphs together and have a discussion. And once again, you know, you must, you know, make sure you're using open-ended questions, and then that's just to stimulate the interest. So let's get any questions? Cool. Let's move on. So that's activity 2. Moving into activity 3, and this is identity. Trying to, I suppose I call this true identity. And the best way I could probably show this is I'll pop up this image here. During this time, I'd actually play. If you don't know this gentleman here is Vanilla Ice. He's actually an artist, musician. I think he's doing a few other things as well on the side, you know, at this current time. But I'd play one of his famous songs, and it's called Ice Ice Baby. And I'd play that, and a lot of our students do know that song as an old song back in the day, and some of them don't. But I'd pop the song up, and this is what, you know, this is some of the notes that I'd read. Vanilla Ice's album, To the Extreme, released in 1990, featured his best known single, Ice Ice Baby, a rap song about his MC skills, the Miami scene, and a gunfight on Beachfront Avenue. To the Extreme became the first #1 album in the US without a vinyl release. Went on to sell over 11 million copies, and in 1990, Ice Ice Baby was the first hip-hop single to reach #1 on the music charts. However, the most shocking revelation occurred that Vanilla Ice lied about his upbringing, and in an attempt to boost his street credibility, Vanilla Ice claimed that he had attended a black high school in Miami, Florida, and had led a crime-riddled life, where in fact he grew up in a stable, upper-middle-class family. Van Winkle, which is his real name, has been mocked in other rappers' lyrics, most notably by the later and more successful white rap artist Eminem. The African-American sketch comedy In Living Color also mocked Vanilla Ice with a sketch where the rapper was portrayed by Jim Carrey as a bubbling phony, the backup chorus singing He's So White, White Baby. Chris Rock and rapper Ice-T, in an interview with the Rolling Stone, wondered if the rough and tumble street that Vanilla Ice claimed to hail from was in fact Sesame Street. So on July 4, 1994, Van Winkle intended to commit suicide and made another attempt later that same year, citing drug abuse and anxiety surrounding his flagging career. I suppose it's another classic example that we can probably relate to is a group called Milli Vanilli, and they were two friends, sort of gone through the same ordeal of lying their way through these famous, as these musicians, and finding out that they were, they were living a bit of a lie. And actually one of them did commit suicide based off, he couldn't handle being mocked from what they were doing. I suppose just before I conclude, I just, in sharing that story on this activity sorry, on this identity part, is do you have students in your class that don't really know what they are doing or don't know what their purpose in life is? What are we as teachers doing to help them find purpose in life? This brings me back to my quote, which I want to finish the session on, and it is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So before we finish, does anyone have any questions? Cool. Well, thank you for that. You made my job easy from just presenting and not having to ask anything. Once again, I would like to thank you all for being part of the webinar. And if you are interested in more, please feel free to email me. My email's on this webinar as well, and I'll be more than happy to chat more and discuss more about the other parts of the sessions. But thank you all, and hopefully I'll get to meet you sometime in the future.